even though we have signed off to be not involved with the chaplain, there is no way to entirely escape chaplaincy. It's part of the school's culture.
Can I invite you now just to... This is one of the stereotypes that we have to cop as chaplains, is that we're religious and are trying to impose some sort of religious agenda on people. It's not.
Hello, thank you for joining me. 4 years ago, the federal government funded a new program that's overseen a growing number of chaplains in Australian schools. Now, although many have embraced the scheme, others are uneasy, claiming that chaplains are depriving their children of a secular education and in fact working beyond their brief. Indeed, one parent wants to challenge the government's funding of the scheme in the highest court in the land. So, in this program, we take a look at what chaplains do and examine the arguments from both sides.
See you guys, have a good afternoon.
Greg Pearce is the school chaplain at Undurba State Primary School in Brisbane's northern suburbs. He's not here to teach religious instruction. He's more like a spiritual welfare officer.
I'd say the main part of my role as a chaplain would be one-on-one conversations with kids over a variety of different issues that they have, but also through lunchtime activities that I might do, taking sporting teams away, going on camps, things like that. So it's quite a wide variety of different activities.
I don't know whether I'm going to...
Greg's job is to be on hand to listen and support students in all facets of their life at school. It's a pastoral care role to support the emotional development of students.
I do get a lot of kids who are suffering through family breakdown. I don't think that's a reflection on the school that I'm at. I think that just seems to be generally chaplains that you speak to seem to be dealing a lot with family breakdown, but also with friendship issues in the playground and things like that. Sometimes kids come to me with low self-esteem, things like that, and just want to listen, caring ear, someone that they can chat with, and just sort of reassure them that they're going well.
Greg has a really strong, positive rapport with all of the students. So I think the students see him as a good role model, and they see him as someone who's easy to talk to. And I think that the student body really appreciate the fact that Greg will go out and play a game of soccer or will walk and talk with them about different problems. They don't see him as an authoritarian position in the school, which I think is a good thing, because they're more likely to open up to and talk about real issues for them.
Like, if someone was teasing me or something about my problems that I have or something, he'd be a good person to talk to as well. He'd make me feel better.
Having fights with your sister and like your mum and your dad are fighting, and you can just go and talk about it, and he keeps it to himself and he doesn't tell anyone else.
School chaplains have been operating in Australian schools since the 1950s.
Now, last week, boys, we made a pretty long list of questions that you want answered concerning God. And it's going to take us about half the term to get through this list of questions on the blackboard.
In the past, their salaries were paid for by church and community groups, or through funds raised by school P&Cs, in some instances with state funding thrown in. Then, in 2006, the Howard government announced its National School Chaplaincy program.
The government's pushing for more spiritual and emotional guidance in the country's schools. The Prime Minister's promising $20,000 of federal funding to any government or non-government school that wants a chaplain.
Quite a number of the chaplains could indeed be ministers or priests, but it wouldn't be limited to them.
He says they could help students deal with parents breaking up or the aftermath of a tragic accident.
One of the characters in here, she goes through her winter season, and so what we're going to do is read the book, and then you can tell me when you think she starts to go through winter. Does that sound pretty cool?
At Undurba State Primary School, Greg Pearce helps run this program called Seasons.
Now, do we feel winter feelings all of the time? Just some of the time? They're not very nice feelings though, are they?
Winter's bad feelings.
The Seasons is a program that helps kids through grief and loss, so that could be through family breakdown, through the loss of a loved one. It just sort of really goes through how the kids are feeling, but it's just a way in which we can support kids that are trying to battle through things that are really adult issues, and they've sort of just been caught up in it. Cats aren't nearly as useful as dogs, she said.
Today, Queensland has the highest number of chappies, as they're called, of any state, around 500. 1 in 2 state schools now has one. But not everyone's happy about the growing number of chaplains in schools.
Apple and salt.
Ron and Andrea Williams have 6 young children. Finding the right school for them has not been easy. The Williams have moved their 4 school-aged children to 3 different state schools to keep them away from chaplains.
In the picture, animation, awesome earth.
I don't want my children to get proselytised by the chaplain. I don't want them to be influenced by the chaplain.
Even though we have signed off to be not involved with the chaplain, there is no way to entirely escape chaplaincy. It's part of the school's culture because chaplains get to do all kinds of things, including coaching sporting teams, going on school excursions, going on school camps, running other activities, lunchtime activities, things that you would have no hope of even knowing that are going on.
Let's go sing This Is Nova.
The Williams live in Toowoomba, west of Brisbane, a city Ron calls the buckle of the Bible Belt.
I grew up in a secular household, but I went to school in this town and I was exposed to religion in schools, and I can remember being in grade 1 and 2, going to bed singing religious songs, but I did at times think that I was being watched, and if I was naughty I would burn in hell and things like that. I just want my children to be free from thinking like that.
I'm not anti-faith, I'm not anti-religious. I'm fiercely and passionately for the separation of church and state.
The Williams say their troubles began when they enrolled their firstborn son at their local school.
After a couple of weeks, Andre started coming home singing little gospel ditties to us, and we sort of bolted back to the school and said, "What's going on?"
The Williams promptly asked for their son to be withdrawn from the weekly religious instruction class.
When we did ask Andre to come out of religion, it somehow got filtered to the children, and the children started telling my son he'll burn in hell if he doesn't believe in God.
One day you're a rooster, next day you're a feather duster. You woke up Julius Caesar, tonight you're General Custer.
Ron is a singer-songwriter who's produced many advertising jingles.
But there's no place else to go.
And that's how he's voicing his protest against the chaplaincy scheme.
Because of things that were getting said to my children about not being believers when they were at school, for not doing RI, religious instruction, about going to hell, whatever it might be. And I felt that I should take the family ethos and make a case for it and put it into a song.
It seems to me the species Homo sapiens carries the chutzpah gene. To think they are the purpose of the universe when they only just arrived on the scene. What's even worse, they bear a curse of believing they're the only form of life to never die and go on living somewhere high up in the sky. Somewhere high up in the sky. So why don't bees go to heaven and trees go to heaven? Amoeba, krill and fleas go to heaven. It's not...
Bees is in no way some kind of slapstick atheist anti-Jesus song or anti-Muhammad song. Or it takes care not to really knock any prophets. It's really just about explaining why humans, and more particularly the male of the species, has seen the need to find gods that can make up rules that are usually fairly sexist and fairly violent, as blokes would make it up.